Welcome to OOTO TV, the out-of-the-office investigation from the past into the future of health. This time we're discussing vitamin B9 folate, supplement for MTHFR gene mutation, Hashimoto's, and autism. Hello and welcome, you curious minds. I'm Bob, and I am absolutely thrilled to embark on another fascinating journey into the cutting edge of health science with you today on OOTO TV.
And I'm Sue. I'm already buzzing with excitement because today's topic, vitamin B9 folate, supplement for MTHFR gene mutation, Hashimoto's, and autism, is incredibly intricate and, frankly, vital for so many.
It really is.
We're going to explore how a seemingly simple vitamin can have such, well, profound effects on complex conditions.
You're absolutely right. For you, our dedicated listener, we'll be delving into the different forms of vitamin B9, what the MTHFR gene mutation truly means for your body, and those intricate connections between folate metabolism, autism spectrum disorder, and Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Our mission is really to extract the most important insights from a rich stack of research, providing you with a clearer understanding of these interconnected health puzzles.
Yeah, we'll look at the scientific findings, the nuances, and even some of the ongoing debates in this, well, rapidly evolving field.
And throughout our discussion on OOTO TV, we'll keep two critical questions right at the forefront.
The big ones. Is vitamin B9 folate beneficial for MTHFR gene mutation, Hashimoto's, and autism?
And crucially, is this supplementation strategy safe?
Okay, let's jump right in.
So, it's truly remarkable how many forms vitamin B9 actually takes. It's not just one single nutrient, is it?
Not at all. It's like a whole family. We start with folic acid. That's the synthetic form. It's crucial for DNA and RNA synthesis and that whole epigenetic methylation thing.
Right. Process is absolutely essential for our nervous system's development. That's highlighted in the research.
Exactly. Then there's folate. That's the natural one, the water-soluble B vitamin you find in foods. It's vital for, well, countless physiological processes like DNA replication, amino acid homeostasis, and even our body's antioxidant defense, the redox defense.
And the distinction between these forms is really, really important for our bodies, for how we actually use them.
Yeah, because neither the natural folate nor the synthetic folic acid is metabolically active just as it is.
They both need converting.
They both need to be reduced to, participate in cellular metabolism. And that's where folinic acid, another synthetic form, and L-methylfolate come in.
Ah, L-methylfolate. That's the biologically active one, right? 5-MTHF.
That's the one. It's immediately ready for the body to use. It bypasses some of those conversion steps.
Now, what's crucial here is this enzyme, dihydrofolate reductase, or DHFR. It's like the converter for synthetic folic acid. Exactly.
It turns synthetic folic acid into a usable form, tetrahydrofolate. But here's the catch.
Okay.
In humans, that converter, DHFR, it works quite slowly. So if you take in higher concentrations of folic acid, it can actually sort of inhibit its own conversion.
Create a bottleneck.
Pretty much. It can lead to what's called unmetabolized folic acid just circulating in your system, especially if you're supplementing above, say, 400 micrograms per day.
That raises a really important question then. If the body struggles to process synthetic folic acid at those higher doses, what does that mean for something like brain development?
Well, some studies do hypothesize there could be a detrimental effect of that unmetabolized folic acid on neural districts during neurological development.
Especially if intake goes over 1 milligram a day, or if there are other issues with 1-carbon metabolism.
Right. Even if B12 levels are okay, that 1-carbon metabolism pathway is just so fundamental for making DNA, neurotransmitters, detoxification, all that essential stuff.
Okay, so let's turn our attention now to the MTHFR gene mutation, because this seems to be where a lot of these folate metabolism issues really kick off for some people.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. The MTHFR gene is essentially the blueprint, telling your body how to make the MTHFR protein.
And that protein is absolutely essential for producing the usable form of folate we just talked about.
Correct. So if you have a mutation in this gene, a variation in the blueprint, your body might not process folate as efficiently as it should. It's like that slow assembly line idea.
Okay. And what's the downstream effect of that?
Well, a common consequence is you can see increased levels of an amino acid called homocysteine.
Right. Homocysteine, I've heard of that.
An elevated homocysteine can trigger this whole cascade of problems, things like impaired methylation.
Which affects detoxification, making neurotransmitters, even DNA.
All of that. We're talking potential links to cardiovascular disease, dementia, and increased risk of blood clots. It's quite systemic.
And what's really striking is how common these MTHFR gene variants actually are. like the C677T and A1298C polymorphisms.
Incredibly common. Some sources say more people in the U.S. have at least one copy of the C677T variant than those who don't.
Wow.
Yeah, studies in different populations, like Egypt or the U.S., show heterozygous rates, meaning one copy of the mutation anywhere from, say, 40 up to 60%, and homozygous rates, 2 copies, are significant too.
So for you listening, this means there's a really good chance you or someone you know carries one of these variations.
You're listening to OOTO-TV with research by author Paul Bulow.
Now, here's a really thought-provoking, maybe slightly controversial perspective.
Okay.
There's a hypothesis discussed on platforms like MTHFR Net, linking the start of widespread folic acid fortification, which really ramped up around 1992, to the rapid rise in autism diagnoses that started around 1993.
Okay. What's the proposed link there?
The idea is that the increased maternal folate status, specifically from synthetic folic acid, might have inadvertently altered natural selection.
How so?
It could have increased the survival rates of infants carrying that MTHFR C677T polymorphism, babies who might have otherwise been miscarried due to undermethylation issues linked to the mutation.
Ah, I see. So the argument isn't that folic acid causes the mutation?
No, not causing it. Dr. Ben Lynch clarifies that. The suggestion is more that it might be increasing its prevalence in the population by allowing more babies with it to be born successfully.
That's a fascinating, complex idea. And there are other viewpoints too, right? Some people with MTHFR mutations feel folic acid itself acts almost like a toxin for them.
Exactly. Like the commenter Jockey mentioned, arguing their bodies struggle to break it down, leading to a buildup of waste products. It's definitely an area with different perspectives and ongoing debate.
Okay, so moving on to autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, the research looking at folate metabolism here is, well, truly eye-opening.
It really is. ASD, as you know, is a complex neurodevelopmental condition. We see challenges in social communication, behavior, sensory integration.
And its prevalence is rising globally, so understanding the origins is a huge priority.
What's emerging is that impaired folate metabolism seems to be identified as a major contributor to the pathophysiology of ASD.
How does that work?
It seems to happen through the dysregulation of crucial neurochemical and epigenetic processes, particularly epigenetics, things like aberrant DNA methylation, which influences how genes function without changing the DNA sequence itself. That's increasingly implicated in ASD.
Right. And the research points out that the folate cycle is deeply involved in several pathways critical to autism. Things like glutathione oxidative stress.
Amino acid and DNA methylation reactions.
And neurotransmitter synthesis, too. We're essentially talking about the fundamental building blocks of brain function and development.
And then there's this compelling research on something called cerebral folate deficiency, CFD, seen in some children with ASD.
Cerebral folate deficiency. What causes that?
It can be caused by these serum autoantibodies against something called folate receptor alpha, or FRAA.
Autoantibodies, so the body's immune system is involved.
Exactly. These antibodies literally block the transport of the active form of folate, 5-MTHS, into the brain.
Wow. So the folate might be in the blood, but it can't get where it needs to go in the brain.
Precisely. And studies have found reduced folate levels in the cerebrospinal fluid, the fluid around the brain, in a significant number of patients with early-onset low-functioning autism, like 19 out of 23 in one review.
That's a very direct link. And the symptoms associated with these folate receptor antibodies, they're quite striking, aren't they?
They are. Irritability, anxiety, poor sleep, issues with gross motor skills, tics, seizures, vision problems, developmental delay, even depression.
It really highlights how absolutely vital proper folate transport to the brain is for overall neurological health. It affects so many areas.
Okay, now let's get to the really exciting part, the interventions. The question we keep asking is vitamin B9 folate, supplement for MTHFR gene mutation, Hashimoto's, and autism beneficial?
And the research here seems to provide a pretty strong yes for many individuals. Let's start with folinic acid.
Okay, folinic acid.
A meta-analysis pooling data from a couple of double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled trials, the gold standard, really indicated that giving folinic acid has the potential to reduce ASD symptoms in children.
With statistical significance.
Yes, a p-value of 0.02. Now, they did call for larger studies, but that initial signal is definitely there and very encouraging.
And it gets even better, right? There was that trial by Fry and colleagues in 2018.
Yes, looking at high-dose folinic acid, 2 milligrams per kilogram per day, up to 50 milligrams in kids with autism.
And the findings?
They found significantly greater improvement in verbal communication for the children on folinic acid compared to the placebo group.
Significantly greater. How?
It was described as a medium to large effect size, a Cohen's d of 0.70, which in research terms indicates a pretty substantial measurable impact.
So a real difference for these kids.
Especially, it seemed, in those children who tested positive for those folate receptor alpha autoantibodies we mentioned earlier, and also those with a low glutathione redox ratio, suggesting issues with antioxidant capacity.
You're listening to OOTO TV, with research by author Paul Bulow.
And that study, it defined a clinically meaningful change as a 5-point increase in verbal communication scores.
Okay.
Their analysis showed an incredible 65% of the kids on folinic acid reached that meaningful change. They were responders, compared to only 24% on placebo.
Wow, 65 versus 24%. That's a huge difference.
A 41% difference. And another pilot study reinforced this, showing folinic acid was safe and led to clinically meaningful improvements, even if the small sample size meant it didn't hit statistical significance for every measure.
And then there's more recent data, too, from 2025 involving Chinese children with ASD.
Yes, Zhang and colleagues, they found high-dose folinic acid led to significantly greater improvements in social reciprocity.
Social reciprocity, that's a core area in autism.
Absolutely. And what's more, the effectiveness seemed to be linked to specific folate metabolism gene variations, like MTHFR A1298C or MTHFR A66G mutations.
Suggesting a personalized approach could be really key here.
Exactly. The research really points towards vitamin B9 folate improves speech and behavior in autism.
Now, what about L-methylfolate, the other active form?
Well, think about that comparative study from 2021 on women who had recurrent pregnancy loss and MTHFR mutation.
Okay, what did that show?
It showed that giving methylfolate dramatically improved pregnancy continuation rates. 60% of patients getting methylfolate carried to full term compared to only 22% getting regular folate.
60 versus 22, that's massive.
And abortion rates dropped from 54% down to just 6%. It really highlights how crucial this active form can be when those MTHFR variations are present, even beyond autism.
But, as always, we need to look at the whole picture. It's not always straightforward, is it?
No, definitely not. While standard prenatal folic acid supplementation around 600 micrograms has shown potential benefits for maybe reducing ASD risk in some studies.
Other research has reported conflicting results, or even the opposite.
Right, and we have seen cautions, particularly from animal studies, suggesting that maternal supplementation with very large doses of synthetic folic acid could potentially lead to neurological issues in offspring, things like synaptic defects, altered gene expression.
So dose and form really seem critical. It underscores the need for precision.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's broaden the scope beyond autism now. Because the MTHFR gene mutation and these impaired methylation pathways, they seem to cast a pretty wide net, don't they? Reaching into other complex conditions like Hashimoto's thyroiditis.
Yes, this is another really crucial connection. Experts like Dr. Isabella Wentz highlight how MTHFR variations can prevent proper methylation.
And methylation is key for detoxification, right?
It's a primary detox pathway. So if it's impaired, the body might struggle to clear toxins like mercury or arsenic. This could potentially lead to multiple chemical sensitivities and overwhelmed detox system.
And that could contribute to the body sort of turning on itself like an autoimmunity.
That's the thinking. It impacts the body's ability to maintain balance. Plus, the implications for mental health are significant too.
Things like brain fog, depression, irritability, anxiety.
All potentially linked to impaired methylation. And if you connect the dots, lack of active methylfolate due to MTHFR issues can lead to high homocysteine,
Which contributes to inflammation.
Right. An increased risk for autoimmune conditions, including autoimmune thyroid diseases like Hashimoto's. That's emphasized by places like Paloma Health.
Okay, but this link, it isn't entirely straightforward in the research, is it? There seems to be some contradiction.
That's true, and it's important for you listening to understand these nuances. There was a 2012 study, for instance, by Arakawa and colleagues.
What did they find?
They actually found that MTHFR polymorphisms were no more common in people with autoimmune thyroid diseases, including Hashimoto's and Graves', than in the general population. And the mutations didn't seem to influence how severe the disease was.
So that study didn't support a strong direct link.
But then, fast forward to 2020, and a study by Kvartskili and colleagues did find that the MTHFR C677T variant was significantly associated with hypothyroidism in a group of women.
Interesting. So, conflicting findings. What could explain that?
It really raises questions about, how the studies were done, the specific populations looked at, maybe genetic background or other factors play a big role in whether that MTHFR link shows up strongly.
You're listening to OOTO-TV with research by author Paul Bolo.
And this also has profound implications for fertility, especially in women with hypothyroidism.
How so?
Methylation issues tied to MTHFR have been shown to contribute to infertility and recurrent miscarriages in this group.
Is there evidence that addressing it helps?
Yes. There was a 2020 study presenting two really compelling cases. Women with both Hashimoto's and MTHFR issues who had struggled with pregnancy loss.
Okay.
After optimizing their thyroid levels, TSH, and getting a supplement containing methylated folate and other key nutrients, both were able to conceive and deliver healthy babies.
That's incredibly powerful. A tangible example of how targeted nutritional support can potentially change outcomes.
It really is. And here's one more curious detail connecting things. Remember the cerebral folate deficiency?
Yes, where antibodies block folate getting into the brain.
Well, sometimes a dairy-free diet is recommended for that.
Dairy-free? Why?
The thinking is that proteins in mammalian milk might potentially contribute to developing those folate receptor antibodies.
Wow. It's just another reminder of how interconnected everything is. Diet, gut health, immune function, brain function. It's not just about one single nutrient in isolation.
Absolutely. It's the whole system.
What an incredible journey we've had on OOTO TV today, diving into this world of vitamin B9 and its profound impact.
It really has been. It's so clear that while vitamin B9 folate, folinic acid is absolutely essential for those foundational processes, DNA synthesis, nervous system development.
Basics.
Yeah. But its interaction with our unique genetic makeup, especially that MTHFR gene, that's where things get truly compelling and, frankly, quite personalized.
Okay, so let's try and distill some of the major insights for you, our listener. First, regarding MTHFR and folate.
It seems clear that these common MTHFR mutations can significantly hinder the body's ability to use synthetic folic acid effectively,
Often leading to that elevated homocysteine and impaired methylation we talked about.
which in turn are linked to a whole spectrum of health issues. So the key takeaway here is that the form of the vitamin B9 you take really, really matters if you have one of these variations.
Right. Active forms like L-methylfolate and folinic acid seem potentially more effective because they bypass that MTHFR enzyme bottleneck.
Exactly. They help maintain optimal folate levels and support those crucial methylation pathways directly. That's critical info for anyone with a known MTHFR mutation.
Now, regarding autism spectrum disorder, the research really points unequivocally towards a strong link between problems with folate metabolism and the underlying biology, the pathophysiology of ASD.
Absolutely. And those studies on folinic acid are particularly exciting, aren't they? Showing significant improvements in verbal communication and social reciprocity in children with ASD.
Especially in those kids identified as having folate metabolism abnormalities, like the folate receptor autoantibodies.
So back to that first big question. Is vitamin B9 folate, supplement for MTHFR gene mutation, Hashimoto's, and autism truly beneficial?
Based on everything we've explored today on OOTO TV, the evidence strongly suggests that yes, for many individuals, vitamin B9 folate can improve health and well-being.
And I'd add even more, it significantly improves health and function. Vitamin B9 folate supports improvement in MTHFR gene mutation, Hashimoto's, and autism.
Those studies on folinic acid's impact on verbal communication and social reciprocity in kids with autism are just so compelling, as is the data on methylfolate supporting successful pregnancies in women with MTHFR issues.
Definitely. And for Hashimoto's, that connection between MTHFR, impaired methylation, and autoimmune thyroid conditions, it's complex, yes, but it's an increasingly recognized area.
Addressing those methylation issues seems like it could profoundly impact not just thyroid health, but also related mental health symptoms, and even improve fertility outcomes for hypothyroid women. That's incredibly empowering information.
But now we absolutely have to address that second crucial question. Is vitamin B9 folate, supplement for MTHFR gene mutation, Hashimoto's, and autism safe?
An excellent and vital point. It's essential for you listening to understand the nuances here.
Right. While the studies using folinic acid in children with autism generally reported no significant adverse events, which is reassuring.
We must acknowledge that high doses of synthetic folic acid could potentially cause problems, like masking of vitamin B12 deficiency.
That's a classic concern. And interestingly, even the active form, methylfolate in some individuals, could potentially lead to symptoms of what's called overmethylation.
Like restless legs or increased anxiety?
Exactly. It really underscores that this isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. Personalized care, working with knowledgeable healthcare providers who understand these pathways is just so important.
Indeed. And let's not just brush past that controversial hypothesis linking widespread folic acid fortification to the rise in MTHFR gene prevalence and maybe autism incidence.
It's complex, needs much more research, but it's part of the conversation.
Plus, those cautionary notes from animal studies about potential negative neurological effects from very high doses of synthetic folic acid, they just emphasize the need for careful consideration and moderation. More isn't always better.
Absolutely. And ultimately, what we're really learning on OOTO-TV today is that optimizing health in these complex areas, it's rarely about just one single supplement.
It's holistic.
It's a holistic endeavor. It involves other vital nutrients, B12, iron, calcium, vitamin D, magnesium. It involves gut health, maybe probiotics. And it involves those fundamental lifestyle factors, a nutrient-rich diet, regular exercise.
The insights we've gained today are really a testament to the power of targeted nutrition, aren't they? And the incredible potential of personalized medicine, especially when we start considering our individual genetic blueprints and how they interact with our diet and environment.
So as we wrap up this illuminating investigation, what final provocative thought should we leave our listeners with today?
Okay, here's something to ponder. Given how widespread these MTHFR gene variations are, and the profound impact folate metabolism clearly has on conditions like autism and Hashimoto's, what deeper connections might we uncover if we proactively explored our own individual genetic predispositions?
Linking our genes to our daily nutritional choices.
Exactly. And how might that deeper understanding empower us, you, to actually sculpt a healthier future for ourselves and maybe even for generations to come?
That is a truly captivating thought. Thank you, our incredible listeners, for joining us on OOTO TV for this investigation into the future of health. Keep those curious minds buzzing.
Until next time, stay well, stay informed, and keep asking those important questions.